Hi, I'm Dominique Dawes, three-time Olympian and Olympic gold medalist in the sport of gymnastics, and I'm here chopping it up with Buck.
All right, I'm so excited for this edition of Chopping It Up with Buck. I have Dominique Dawes with me, and Dominique, we all know your greatness on the Olympic side of the house, but we got some other things we want to talk about, but I really want to welcome you to Chopping It Up with Buck. We've been trying to do this for a while, some technical difficulties, but we finally got it together.
Yes, it's all worked out, so I'm excited to be here with you.
Yeah. So let's just get back into your history. It's neat reading people's story and their bio. But you grew up in Maryland. When you're 6 years old, you started gymnastics, right? Tell us a little bit about that and how that came about.
Yes, well, I was a very energetic child. My parents have told me that my whole life, and I never understood how energetic I was until I became a mother. And my four kids that are under the age of, they're 8 and under, have an enormous amount of energy. And so I think that they are little me's. And so when I was 6 years old, my mom took me to my first gymnastics class with my older sister, Danielle. And I remember walking through those doors and just falling in love with the sport of gymnastics right away. I already knew how to flip. I taught myself how to flip on my parents' mattress, but they were able to perfect that there.
Were you climbing out of your crib when you were young and doing all of those things?
Oh, I'm sure. All my kids have done that. I have kids that scale the wall. Like my kids are like little ninjas in the house. They scale the wall and then in the doorways. And then my 4-year-old, I have 4.5-year-old twins. The little girl, Dakota, always climbs up to the top of the fridge. Who does that? She does.
We used to do that in the hallways at football practice, but
really?
But crazy boys, we do kind of stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about just growing up as an African American young lady in the gymnast world. That's different. And I know, what was that like for you? And what were some of the challenges, but also some of the benefits?
Yes, I mean, it was very challenging, but of course, situations could have been much worse. I had my health. I was physically talented. I had a seed of God planted in me at a young age. And so, I think the sport of gymnastics can be a very grueling sport. What I endured working out nearly 36 plus hours a week, it felt like a full-time job. There was a significant amount of pressure put up on me. And the environment there, the culture there is, come to the limelight, and people have seen how it's not so healthy for our young children. But on the flip side, it really did help develop this level of perseverance and resilience in me.
Yeah.
I don't give up at whatever I'm doing. I have an enormous amount of drive. I only pursue things that I'm passionate about. If I'm not passionate about it, you can tell because I look bored out of my mind. And so the sport of gymnastics also allowed me to inspire a generation of young athletes, not necessarily to follow in my footsteps and to be a gymnast as well, but to not allow any difficulties or setbacks or injuries or stereotypes to deter them from accomplishing whatever it is that they've set their minds to. And so there's definitely the negative, but there's also a great deal of positive things that have come out of the sport of gymnastics for me.
Yeah, you talk about it, God having that seed in you and, being very spiritual. The other piece is mental health. It's a pressure cooker. I mean, we talk about it in football, but when I watched the Olympics and I watched even going back to Nadia Comaneci, but you guys all the way through 96, and you were fortunate to do it multiple times. Tell us a little about the mental aspect, getting yourself locked in to do that.
Well, the mental aspect, I mean, you brought up the 1976 Olympic Games with Nadia Comaneci, and what did she accomplish? The perfect 10. She set the tone for what we were supposed to accomplish. And that idea of striving for perfection on a day-to-day basis is grueling. It takes a toll on a young person. It takes a toll on an adult because we will never be perfect. And that really was the basis of the culture of the sport of gymnastics, that everyone was looking at everything you were doing wrong versus celebrating the small successes and looking at what you were doing well. And so that culture is something that I'm trying to change. I started 2 different academies in the state of Maryland. I have the Dominique Dawes Gymnastics and Ninja Academy in Clarksburg, Maryland. And my second location will open early next year in Rockville, Maryland. And it's all about building happy, healthy kids. It's all about sweating and smiling. It's not about perfection. It's not about comparison. It's not even about competition. It's getting the most out of your young athlete in a very kind and encouraging environment.
I love what you're doing, but I also have to ask you, how are we addressing issues like the Larry Nassar things that have happened in gymnastics? And I know you have been a very outspoken person for that, rightfully so. So whatever we can do on this show, but any other platforms that we have to help, what are you guys doing to help young ladies not have to suffer through that?
You know, Charles, if you would know me, my personality is I'm very private. I'm very introverted. And the idea that someone would tell me that I would be opening my own gymnastics gym with thousands of people coming through my doors, and I'm not there every day. I run a lot of it on the back end because I'm a wife. I want to stay married. And I'm a mother of 4 very young kids. And I want my kids to know me as mom. And I want them to not know me as like gym owner mom that's always at the gym and never spending quality time with them. And so I would say if you knew my personality before, you would never envision that this would be something that I would pursue. However, when everything came out in 2016 with regards to Larry Nassar, a light bulb went on, not only in my mind, but also my husband's mind, who was a school teacher for nearly 20 years. And he said, you've got to be a part of this positive change, and opening academies in your hometown will give these young girls and boys a positive outlet so they don't have to go through the level of abuses that I went through. I knew Larry for 10 years of my childhood. He was a monster, but I didn't know it then. As a young child, I was very vulnerable, and I was around, unfortunately, a lot of abusive people. And so it wasn't he didn't raise any red flags with me because we were always uncomfortable. We couldn't share our truth. And we were dealing with a number of other abuses with regards to verbal, physical, emotional abuse. And so when sexual abuse happened, I don't think any of my teammates or myself thought much about it because it was very uncomfortable. But when everything came out, I started sharing more about my experience as a young child with my husband, who was not in the gymnastics bubble whatsoever, whatsoever. And so that was the first time that I shared what I had gone through with someone that had a different perspective, because when you share it with your teammates or people that are in the bubble, they think it's okay because they went through it.
It's the normal. It's the normal. Yeah.
It's abnormal, but it's abnormal. Yeah. And my husband, who was a school teacher for so many years, is like, that explains a lot of your insecurities. That explains a lot of you isolating yourself from the world. And he's like, you have such a gift to give to people, and you need to be able to break out from that and realize that that person that abused you for so many years no longer has control over you. And so opening a gymnastics gym in Clarksburg, Maryland, 8 miles from the gym that I went to, is something that I never thought I would have the strength to do, but I did it. Opening a second location in Rockville, Maryland, I never thought I would have the strength to do this, and it's a lot of work, but I'm doing it. And all of it happened because people started speaking their truth with regard to the abuses.
I'm glad to hear you've opened that up in the DMV, and I'm so happy to hear that your husband and you and whoever else has helped you kind of get through that, because that's not an easy thing. I mean, I can't even imagine what that's like, but having a daughter and understanding just some of the things she faces, I applaud you for doing that.
Well, thank you. What gives me strength are my 4 kids. Obviously my faith, and then also looking back at my younger self and giving my younger self what I wish I had. And not that I'm like, oh, I wish I didn't go to 3 Olympics. I know I was able to inspire a generation or generations of young people, but I wish I had a more loving and supportive environment of people around me. My husband reminds me, he's like, you had the talent. Any coach could have gotten you to those Olympic Games. And it would have been nice if it would have been a healthier environment that was fruit that would have been, fruit that we would have wanted to have sown later in life.
Yeah. We're going to take a short break here. We'll come back and we'll really talk about some of those Olympic moments and Magnificent 7 also. I'd love to hear that. We'll be right back. Chopping it up with Buck.
At Heslop Wealth Advisors, our goal is to help small businesses develop quality retirement plans for their employees through our Lunch and Learn seminars. We provide lunch and learning tools to help your company succeed and unmatched customer service.
All right, we're back with Chopping It Up with Buck. Thin Energy, of course. Dominique is a key component there. I have been as well. I'll tell you, before we kind of get started, let's talk a little bit about that,
Yeah.
what that means, because you've trained and you've done all that. But what has Thin Energy done for you? A plant-based nutrient that you can take. I have a little packet that I can shake because I'm traveling, but you have you got it all.
I got it all. I got it all. I will say Thin Energy hydration has changed my life. The introduction to it was definitely Mike Gardner. It was an organic meeting. I was in the Bethesda, Maryland area, right down the street from where I live. And I was at Congressional Country Club. There was an event going on there. I was a speaker. Mike happened to be there as well. He came over to my husband and I, introduced us to what Thin Energy hydration is about. And, as a former athlete, you're used to having people pitch so many different things to you that I was like, oh goodness, another thing. But I am very much a healthy lifestyle advocate. I was the co-chair of the President's Council on Fitness, Sports, and Nutrition, worked very closely with Barack Obama and Michelle Obama. Her whole campaign about addressing childhood obesity was something that I was very passionate about. And so hearing about a healthy drink was something that I had not heard about before. And then once I got to know Mike, he's so passionate, knowing about his journey.
I was the best man in his wedding, so I've known the dude forever.
You have?
Yeah, when I played with the Colts, we met, and kind of similar to you, he's had these visions.
Yep, and the seed has been planted, and it is definitely sowing. And so I said, I love everything you're about. I love who you are, but you got to send me samples. I'm not one that can align myself with a brand or a campaign if I truly don't believe in it. I do not fake things well. I was on Broadway for a very short stint in Manhattan, and I didn't last because I can't act. So, I did say, send me samples. I'll tell you what I think. He sent the samples. And just like when I chatted with John Starks, he said his kids went through it first. He was like, where are the drinks? Like, where's the thin energy hydration? That's very similar to what happened to me, my 4 kids, my husband. And then I loved it. And I immediately told Mike, hey, I want to be a part of this. And so I'm one of the equity investors. It's all about eat healthy, drink healthy, be healthy. Told me about it is a movement. And with COVID, everyone's making health a priority. People talk about physical health and working out and moving, and they talk about nutrition, but not enough people talk about drinking healthy. And this being, as you mentioned, the first ever plant-based hydration beverage on the market. No caffeine, no crash. I'm a mom. I need energy, and I'm not going to get 48 hours in a day. So in those 24 hours, I've got to get the most out of myself, the most optimal performance, and Thin Energy hydration allows me to do that.
That's great. Well, you gave us a lot of information. I love that because I was going to do it on the back end, but I did want to take you back. Let's go back to the '96 Olympic Games, the Magnificent Seven. Tell us a little bit about that experience with Shannon Miller and Dominique and Amanda Borden and Amy Chow and yourself, because I can remember you being one that just always seemed calm. You seem like you were, you seem like, and I equate it to the duck on the pond. They're working hard, but you don't know how hard they're working. You made it look effortlessly, but tell us a little bit about that experience.
Oh, that was so much work. I will say, of all of my Olympic Games, those were, of course, the most talented young girls that I had ever competed with or against throughout my whole career. I was 19 years old, so I was considered the older one of that team. We had an amazing team captain in Amanda Borden. She's like she has the Pepsodent smile, and she's bubbly and she's positive with everyone. But I will say, when we first got to those Olympic Games in Greensboro, North Carolina, prior to going to Atlanta, a lot of us all had our egos intact. We were brands by then. I had signed a full scholarship to Stanford University, was supposed to go off with Tiger Woods in 1994. I decided to become a professional athlete and I'm a gymnast, so you're not making like real money, but to be a professional athlete. And so it was all about getting endorsements for myself. And I was a brand. I was a business, and many of us were brands as well. So we went in there as individuals with a large ego. And eventually one day the light bulb went off, and we realized we are not going to make history and do what we all are capable of doing if we are walking into this gym each and every day as individuals. So we all put our egos aside, and we were one unit when we marched out in that Georgia Dome in 1996. And that's how we were able to accomplish what we did.
Well, I guess it was kind of cool also to have the Olympics here at home in the States, being able to compete.
Pros and cons.
Yeah, that's true. What were the good things for you, but what were some of just the things you said, oh, that was tough?
Well, I
as
mean,
you
it's
look
good
back?
to have your hometown support. It's good to have your country there chanting "Go
Yeah,
USA." But then you think, oh my goodness, there's nearly 50,000 people in the Georgia Dome relying on me,
yeah.
and billions of people watching worldwide. So you feel that pressure. And right before marching out for our first day of competition, I had a bit of a mental breakdown. And so when Simone Biles had gone through what she went through in 2021 in the Tokyo Olympic Games, when I heard that she backed out because of mental health issues, it took me back to that moment in
Hmm.
1996, how I was bawling profusely. No one
Mm.
could see it because it was behind the blue curtain. And
Yeah.
I dropped to my knees with my team captain, Amanda Borden, and we prayed. And she was like, Dom, we need you. Get up. Like, she was like, and I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. There was a lot going on with me personally, my parents were going through a brutal divorce that never helps a young child whatsoever, no matter what age they are. But I just knew if I wasn't at the top of my game, this team was not going to win. And I was a top scorer. I ended up contributing on all 8 events. There's 4 events, but you compete in each event twice for the team competition. And my score really mattered. And I knew that. And I just felt the weight of the world on my shoulders. But because I had that seed of God planted in me at such a young age, she reminded me and he reminded me that I'm not alone. And so I stood up strong and we all went out there together. But you would think I would never get nervous for things today because of what I experienced. I still do. But that was a magnificent experience. And it's one that I don't care to repeat again.
Well, and you bring up, the bombing in Atlanta also. There were so many other things off. But I'm going to take you back to what you said. It was just really interesting what you talked about having a mental break, because when I saw that with Simone, talk to us about that, because you know Simone now, and you guys anybody that's in that gymnast community understands. Tell us about that and yours, and how people don't quite understand that.
I think with gymnasts, it's so different because and she was 24 at those Olympic Games. I'm not saying she was a child, but she started the sport of gymnastics at a very young age. I started when I was 6 years old. I forsake everything. Of course, I went to school and got good grades, but my identity was wrapped up in being a gymnast. My identity was wrapped up in being an Olympian. And I'm sure she felt the same way, where you don't have this healthy balance going on in your life, that it is about you being an Olympic champion, you leading the charge. And when you tend to have all of that going on, you will many times overanalyze. And that can lead to what she was going through. I guess they labeled it today as twisties, where she would get lost spatially and would not know where she was in the air. I went through that my whole career. We called it mental blocks, or my coaches would say you're just being emotional. But it was a very scary feeling, because you can not only harm yourself physically because of the level of difficulty that you're doing in your skills, but emotionally it's stressful because you can't control the situation. And I wrote a piece in the Washington Post, an op-ed, in support of Simone, because I felt as if anyone out there that could maybe relate to a little bit of what she was going through, I could. And I spoke from my perspective and just talked about just the importance of having that healthy environment around you that, kind of support you and help you through such a difficult time. Because I couldn't imagine, that weight.
Well, being accepted and going to Stanford. I was recruited by Stanford, but I chose UCLA. So I know you're highly intelligent.
I really wasn't recruited very well by UCLA. The coach didn't even come out. She didn't even come to Maryland. And she did like a video, and it was like about Bill Cosby or something. And I was like, okay.
Man. But you brought up something about Simone and Nadia Comaneci. You guys did a Tide commercial that was really cool during the 2016, the Evolution of Power, I think.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that experience.
That was exciting. To team up with people that were so impactful in the sport. Nadia Comaneci, I remember watching Nadia, the movie. I don't know why, following that movie, I thought I really wanted to be a gymnast, because it's, now as a mom, I'm like, if I showed this to my kids, the level of abuse that young lady went through is not something that you as a parent, you are supposed to protect your children. You don't want to put them in those harmful environments. And so to work with the likes of Nadia was a lot of fun. And then Simone, being today's kind of leader in the sport of gymnastics, was, truly a highlight. I hope they continue to do things. My husband always says, why don't people do stuff with you, Gabby and Simone? He feels as if that would just be game changing, and just seeing the evolution of the inspiration and seeds that each of us were able to plant, I think would be a legacy and a story worth telling.
Well, I agree. And I think that's the one thing now you're seeing more
Oh,
young ladies like of color. I mean, just on every facet. But when I guess being in the DMV, you get a lot of young kids coming into your facility to train. How have you helped them and helped their parents understand, hey, this is going to be a lot of pressure to get to this level?
well, let me make it clear, and I think this confused people at first. And prior to the pandemic, I was going to immediately have a competitive gymnastics gym. That was
Okay.
the plan. Of course, I'd have the recreational side that helps support the business and keep the doors open, but there
Yep.
was definitely going to be the competitive side. But we signed our lease before the global pandemic, and we were
Okay.
supposed to open our doors April of 2020. And as you know, everything shut down March of 2020. So it ended up we had to pivot, we had to adjust and change our business plan, and we opened our doors July 2020 and have only supported the recreational side of the sport, preschool side, and ninja. And the more and more I have thought about it as a business owner, as a mom, we've got to create this healthy culture from the rec program at a grassroots level to be able to develop a competitive program that completely speaks to what our vision is about, which is all about sweating and smiling, happy, healthy kids, not adding pressure. I mean, I live in the DC market, as you said, it's all about prestige, power, money, impact. I don't want to add another layer of that in my academy for kids. I know for myself, being a 3-time Olympian, I've probably lit a flame under a number of people that had the it factor, let's say, to get to the pros, to get that full scholarship, or to become the top at what they're doing. But you know what? As you know, the majority of people don't make it to the pros. The majority of the people don't get a college scholarship, not even D3. D3 athletes are top athletes. You know what I'm saying? And so we at our academy are targeting the other 98%.
Gotcha.
The other 98% that still need to learn about the importance of physical activity, of movement, of building their emotional health, their social health, their psychological health in a sports environment. And I tell my husband all the time, I have tears when I go to my academy because of the amazing coaches that aren't about biting the apple and getting the kids to an Olympic level or a college level, but they care about each and every athlete that walks through our doors, no matter their ability. They want to make sure these kids are having fun and they're, going to have a positive experience, and it shows.
Well, I guess the question always comes up when you first stood on the platform to get your medal. What was that like?
I think I thought I had reached the mountaintop. When you sacrifice your childhood, like every day of my life was about gymnastics. I slept in a leotard, and little things like that. People sleep. Think about Kobe Bryant. He would lay down, things like that. Like, it was this seed that was planted in me. I wouldn't change things for the world, but any pain that I've gone through, I am going to make sure it serves a greater purpose. And that's why I'm so passionate about what I'm doing today. But when I got there, I thought I had reached the mountaintop. I'm standing there with my hand over my heart. I'm singing the national anthem, but then I'm realizing I don't feel this completion. I don't feel this joy. I don't feel I felt as if I had been sold on the fact that if you do this, you are going to be happy and fulfilled and whatever. And I was young and naive and ignorant, and around a lot of ignorant and naive people as well that were adults. And I think it was hard for me because I had accomplished almost everything that I had set out to do. And it didn't equate to the joy and happiness. And I realized that it's not what you accomplish money-wise or professionally or things that you may get accolades and achievements for or acknowledgement for, but it's the excitement that I had walking down the aisle to marry my husband when I never thought I would ever get married after seeing the marriages that were around me, or, birthing my first child and having 4 children today, a house that's a complete wreck. But that joy, that's fulfillment for me, because that's something that's everlasting. And that it's truly, I don't know, it's a gift, to be, a mom. But I love the fact that I was able to make history and inspire people. But what I always tell young people and adults, it's not going to be your achievements in life in the professional world that's going to lead to joy and happiness. It's going to be what you do in your personal life.
Well, you can count it all joy, right? I think that's the one thing. And what we have to do before we let you go, we do something called the 2-minute drills. Who was your bestie on that magnificent 17?
Oh my goodness, Shannon Miller.
Okay, why?
Because we had been on this road together, this journey together for so many years. We were on the 1992 Olympic team together and 96 team together, and we tried to make it to the 2000 team together. I made it. She got a little injured. But it was Shannon, because she was always that person that I was gunning for, because she had the work ethic like no other.
Yeah, you guys probably started out as kind of rivals, but became really close friends, right?
No, we were always rivals. That's the problem with the sport of gymnastics. You got to remember this. It's not football. So it's an individual sport. And at that one moment at the Olympic Games, they're like, okay, you guys are teammates. And
that's
then
true.
turn it off. So yeah,
do you guys still do you still keep in touch with Shannon?
Not too much. I mean, every now and then I love seeing what she posts out there. I'm supportive of her. When I see her, it's like we start reminiscing about not
like
gymnastics.
old time.
No, like funny moments. Like
that's what I mean.
Yeah, when we were on tour together, but not our training days. No way. No way.
What music do you listen to?
I will say I love myself some Prince, and it obviously helped that I was, he reached out.
You were in the video.
And I was in the video. Yeah, even today, my husband was like, "Why do you look like you should be back in Prince's video?" Like he was like, making fun of my hair. But yeah, it would be Prince. It would be Prince. He left us with such a gift.
What was the coolest thing about Prince? I've had people that I know close to me that have met him. What was it that was so cool about working in this video, but also just spending that time with him?
I would say he was so down to earth. I had arrived in Paisley Park right after Oprah had left. It was like his first large interview, I was told. And I arrived in Paisley Park. And if you've ever been there, it's like an office building, but I mean, it's not. It looks really cool. And I remember going there. There was like a front desk. And then they had said the artist formerly known as will be out shortly, because back then he was not Prince. And I was like, what am I supposed to call him? A symbol? I can't figure this out. He walked up in a lace outfit that was purple with heels on. And I was like, this is what he wears at home, because this is his home as well, but where he does music videos. And he chatted with me, very soft-spoken, very deep voice, and then asked me what I wanted to drink. And I remember saying hot cocoa. And all of a sudden I'm in Prince's like industrial kitchen, and he's like stirring hot cocoa for me, and we're just chatting it up. And so it was just a very surreal experience, because I grew up loving myself some Prince.
Next question. Favorite place you've traveled in the world, because you've got to go to a lot of places. What was the place that stands out the most for you?
Oh, goodness. My husband and I love the Northwest. We love the Oregon area. Multnomah Falls was beautiful. Gold Beach, Crater Lake. We went to Alaska on an Alaskan cruise. We would highly recommend. I mean, we have such beautiful national parks and beautiful places in the United States alone. But I would say the Northwest was gorgeous.
Cool. What is the one place or thing you have to get your head right, peace, your me time? I know you talk about all the things that you have, but what gets you centered?
I think what gets me centered is waking up every day and dropping straight to my knees, and not doing that when things are just stressful, where I feel as if I need to lean on him and how is this going to work out? I mean, like I mentioned, I'm scaling a business, still dealing with the impact of a global pandemic. And so there are stressful moments, but even when times are going smoothly and going great, just remembering who to give thanks to, and to know that whenever I'm going through these moments in life, I'm never alone. So it's, that centers me for sure.
One of mine is wake up, pray, eat, compete. If I do that every day, I kind of get myself going. Last question for you. We'll get you out of here. Okay. What's your favorite date night with your husband? When you guys are just you and him, what's the favorite date night? Now, it may not happen often, but when it does,
it doesn't happen often. He does complain about it, and then I don't ignore him.
I'm trying to help him out. I know he's a great dude, so I want him to have that great date night with you.
Well, I would say it's funny for me. It's with the kids still, and he's like, "Are you serious?" But our kids are just such, they're a lot of work. But favorite date night, going to sporting events. I mean, we both are minority investors with the Washington Spirit. That's a women's professional soccer team, and so we love supporting organizations that are inspiring the next generation, and that we can bring our kids too. I love the family. I don't know. I bring my kids and my husband on a lot of my work trips when I can, and it makes my work trips so much more fulfilling. I've traveled on my own since I was, 19 years old. And while I've seen a lot, I didn't take it all in. I didn't experience it, and seeing it through the eyes of my children, even though they're always having they're having breakdowns on a flight or whatever, and my husband and I are stressed, I know we're going to miss these days. So God willing, they're going to grow up, move out of the house, and we're going to yearn, I think, to have these moments back.
Well, everybody on Chopping It Up with Buck scores, so you did that. Thank you so much, Dominique, for coming on. This has been great. We'll have to do it again. I really want to come to your facility and check those places out. I know you have. We want to get you out of here in time, but thank you so much again.
We would love it, and you're definitely invited to come to the DC area. We'd love to have you come check out our gyms. Take care.